Akwa baba Odeneho TV so say na any day di kan hwe me message self like subscribe no share say that from so ebenye bi ahwe abusuafo the removal of Chief Justice na ho nsem akwakọ ye bebre na abusua NPP atamasem no akwakọ piemu court a omo chese omo nti asese Saturday no eba besi na se omo beti ase di so mama omo fair hearing and sana omo establish a prima facie case or parliament on na abusua we na NDC amanyoko nu omaso ayehyehyehye a yedwen ho a yente ase na lawyer Paul Adom oche atenase a ochechire nsam nim na Vincent asefu a nso edimu akotene on ba anye asenketo na abusua sa wo hwe omomotai asem nechi a uyem krampo ebehyew na ebi omomudi asem nim akotene bi ne Justice Atuguba na chese onu nso edi asem mu akotene yie pa na ebusua nkrofo bebre eka ho a omuso omudi asem mu akotene na mense wo na ne beko akakotie san nkrofo we nina nsem nchirechire mu na ebusua
to remove the Lord Chief Justice. So it's almost like a deja vu. History repeats itself. When Akufo-Addo and when the MPP won elections in 2001, when John Kufuor came in, there was no issue about removing Justice Aban. Justice Aban was working. He felt completely unwell. And then he had to step aside for Justice Redu back in the day. And then in 2017, when Akufo-Addo came in, Georgina Wood was still the Chief Justice, having been appointed by John Kufuor, having survived the onslaught upon her during the Mills era. Professor Mills had to make a definitive statement publicly that as a law professor, he's not about to do something unconstitutional and remove the Chief Justice. So that also didn't work. John Dramani Mahama was the vice president of the time. Now, since the NDC won the elections, the things that we've been hearing, and tonight later I'll be showing you what Justice Atuguba said, which is very interesting, but we'll come to that in a minute. President Mahama is also being under incessant pressure to remove the Chief Justice, Justice Tokonu, having been appointed by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2023. Tokonu's appointment as Chief Justice came as a relief and as refreshing to many, given that she was the Chief Justice appointed in recent times who has practiced as a judge in all the courts of superior courts of judicature, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. She had gone through the mill. She's been a judge for 20 years. Immediately, she came in and she had led many of the reforms under Georgina Wood, under Sophia Akufu, her predecessor. She had led many of the reforms, particularly the IT reforms that is now making the courts look more modern, like America. So many corporate people were quite excited about the arrival of Justice Tokonu, because in our minds, Supreme Court judges were always constitutional law people. Justice Aban, Justice Redu, Justice Akwa, Justice Akufo-Addo of the past, Justice Apalu, and all of these men, ENP Soa, these were constitutional lawyers. You know, in those days, that's really what it was. Justice Tokonu comes in with a breadth of different things: constitutional law, and more importantly, the administrative capacity to run the judiciary. So many were quite excited about this. In fact, in the final analysis towards the choice of Justice Tokonu, one of the Supreme Court judges, whose name I will not mention now, said that if Justice Tokonu didn't get the job and the other person got it, he was going to resign as a Supreme Court judge. Somebody said that. It's on record. We'll talk about it later. Many people know. So then Justice Tokonu got into the 2024 election issues, where cases were going to the Supreme Court left, right, and center. As it is with almost every election season, you find a lot of writs going to the Supreme Court. In Ghana, in America, is always the same. So she sat on some of them, and the NDC were not happy with some of it. The MPP too were not happy with some of it. In fact, recently she dismissed a petition against my favorite friend Kisi Ajabe, the special prosecutor. Justice Tokonu dismissed that petition, which was filed by Ken Crunchy. And some MPP people were very, very angry with her, that this woman is NDC and some NDC people too were very angry with her, that this woman, when the Babin did the vacancy, she ruled in a certain way. Some MPP people said, did you see her body language at the court when Jogate was talking, a whole former attorney general and former deputy speaker? Do you see how she spoke to Jogate? She should get away from there. So there were some MPP people who were angry with Justice Tokonu, and there were some NDC people who were angry with her. Then the NDC won the election. It didn't come as a surprise that concerns were raised about Justice Tokonu and NDC people saying that she must leave, she must go, she must leave. So finally, it looks like the Constitution has what the lawyers call a lacuna, a gap, a space, something that has not been catered for. Because we all looked at it and said that, But in the case of the Chief Justice, who makes the prima facie? Because the Chief Justice makes the prima facie in respect of other judges. In the case of the Chief Justice, who makes the prima facie? There was a whole lot of confusion. And that's the beauty of democracy. The law is a living organism. So the law was expanded. Now, one man called AG Odame went to the Supreme Court to say that no, I think that the Supreme Court should find a way of adding to Article 1466. In the case of the Chief Justice, there has to be a way in which a prima facie case should be established. So what did AG Odame say? What is prima facie? We've already told you. Prima facie is whether there's a case to answer or not. This is Justice Dateba, who is still happily with us. Okay, so he says here, in my view, the objective purpose and spirit of the 1992 Constitution requires that a Chief Justice be given the benefit of a prior determination as to whether there's a prima facie case established against him or her before the President may establish a committee to consider a petition for his or her removal. This is what Dateba said. He says, in my view, the objective purpose and spirit of the 1992 Constitution require that a Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, Kingsley Akwa, Sophia Ekufu, be given the benefit of a prior determination as to whether there is a prima facie case established against him before the President may establish a committee, because we found out that there's no space in 1466 where this prima facie will be determined. So this is still Dateba. He says there is, and so we are talking about how the prima facie case, what the Dateba and the Supreme Court say about how the prima facie case against the Chief Justice should be established. Who establishes it? Is it the President? Is it the Attorney General? Is it other justice of the Supreme Court? Is it the former Chief Justice? Is it the Chairman of the Council of State? Let's get to the law. He says the issue which arises then from the discussion above is who is to make the prima facie determination. From the analogy in Article 1463, it is clear that the framers of our Constitution wanted an independent determination of the issue of a prima facie case. That is why they provided in the sub-article that the issue was to be referred to the Chief Justice for determination. In cases relating to the Superior Court judges, other than the Chief Justice. Similarly, I, Dateba speaking, do not consider it reasonable to infer that they would want the President himself alone to make the prima facie determination in case of a petition for the removal of the Chief Justice. There is a parallel need for a process which ensures an independent determination of whether there is a prima facie case against the Chief Justice. I, Dateba speaking, consider that the reasonable implication to be made from the context of Article 1466 is that the Council of State should play a prominent role in the determination of whether there is a prima facie case against the Chief Justice. Accordingly, Dateba continues, I am inclined to grant the plaintiff a declaration that the consultation by the President with the Council of State in respect of the appointment of a committee to inquire into the petition for the removal of a Chief Justice shall first determine whether the said petition discloses a prima facie case before the committee is appointed. So, long and short, Justice Dateba and the Supreme Court said that if the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, as we have now, between the President with the Attorney General behind him, and I remember that during the trial, those of us who covered the trial, during the trial, the questions were asked of the lawyers by the Supreme Court who were there. Dateba was super. And he said that if you see, this case happened when Kufuor was a lawyer. When Kufuor was president, he's a lawyer. So they said that, okay, so who determines the prima facie? Some say the president should determine it.